Welcome to the deep dive. We take sources, break them down, and pull out the key insights for you.
Yeah, get right to the core of it.
Exactly. So today, we're looking at an excerpt. We're calling it pasted text. It covers a meeting between Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney and then President Donald Trump.
Right. And it's quite an interesting snapshot.
It is. Our goal here, our sort of mission, is to understand the main dynamics playing out in that room.
Especially thinking about how things might have been, well, different compared to interactions with the previous Canadian leadership.
Good point. So what jumps out first?
Well, for me, it's got to be that central quote, Prime Minister Carney stating very directly to President Trump that Canada is not for sale.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty blunt for high-level diplomacy.
It really is. It's more than just, standard diplomatic talk. It feels like a very strong declaration about sovereignty.
Definitely. And what's interesting, as you mentioned, is the backdrop. The source says the tone was, well, quite different from maybe what we heard about Trump and Trudeau.
It's different.
It notes Carney and Trump actually complimented each other multiple times.
Yeah, that contrast is striking, isn't it? Compliments on one hand, not for sale on the other.
So what do we make of that? Is it just like different personalities clicking better? Or maybe something specific they were discussing?
That's the key question, I think. Personal chemistry always plays some role, right?
Sure.
But these meetings are usually very focused. The source suggests tariffs were a big part of the discussion.
Okay, so tariffs are on the table.
Right. So within that context, maybe those compliments were part of the negotiation dance around the tariffs.
And maybe Carney's not for sale line lands differently then, like maybe setting a boundary related to those tariff talks.
Exactly. Could be him saying, look, we can be cordial, we can discuss these trade issues, these tariffs, but don't think that means our fundamental economic interests or, core Canadian industries are suddenly negotiable or up for grabs. He might have been sort of drawing a line in the sand preemptively.
So even with the niceties, the compliments, that firm statement is there to establish a boundary, a hard line.
Precisely. It suggests that, okay, maybe the atmosphere felt a bit warmer, a bit more agreeable than perhaps previous encounters.
Yeah.
But the core national positions, those remained absolutely solid, non-negotiable.
It really highlights that balancing act in diplomacy, doesn't it?
Totally. You're building relationships, maybe finding common ground where you can, but you're also there to fiercely protect your country's interests.
And that quote, Canada's not for sale, just boils it down perfectly.
It really does. It's concise, it's clear, it's unambiguous.
So if we're summing this up, what's the main takeaway from this glimpse into that meeting?
I'd say it's that juxtaposition. You have a seemingly more amicable interaction at the leader level.
Right, compared to before.
But running right alongside that is this very direct, very strong assertion of Canadian sovereignty, especially on the economic front.
The cordiality doesn't mean concessions on fundamental principle.
Not at all. It shows that diplomatic style and substance can be, well, quite distinct things. How leaders interact personally might change, but the national interest remains paramount.
It definitely makes you think, and maybe for you, the listener, here's something to chew on.
Yeah.
In these really high-stakes global negotiations, especially around trade,
Yeah.
how much weight do you think those personal relationships between leaders actually carry?
That's a good question.
And what happens, what are the ripples, when one leader makes such a clear, almost stark statement about their nation's sovereignty directly to another powerful leader? What does that signal?
Yeah, what are the broader implications of that kind of directness? Lots to consider there.
Indeed. Something to think about until our next deep dive.